It wasn't sunlight. It was cold and blue, like the glow of ice underwater. The air around her hummed softly, steady and constant, almost like the breathing of some great machine. Her head throbbed. The last thing she remembered was the shaking of her ship, the Artemis IV, falling out of control through Epsilon 9's thin atmosphere. Then fire, darkness, and silence. Now she was alive. But where? Lara tried to sit up and pain shot through her chest. She gasped and fell back. That was when she noticed the room. Everything looked alien. The walls shimmered like glass that moved when she breathed. Strange symbols drifted across the ceiling. Floating spheres of light drifted lazily near her bed, changing color from blue to soft white. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't a human medbay. Then she saw the figure standing at the end of her bed. He was tall, almost twice her height, and his body looked like crystal wrapped in silver light. His face was calm, his eyes like two mirrors of liquid metal. He carried no tools, only a small device that hovered near his hand. When he spoke, his voice was deep but soft, almost musical. "You are safe now, human," he said. "Your ship was destroyed. You were found among the debris. I am Dr. Kethar of the Virilan Collective." Lara's voice came out as a dry whisper. "Alien doctor?" "Yes." The being nodded slightly. "You are on Epsilon Station, orbiting your crash site. Your body was badly injured, but I have stabilized your condition. You will live." She blinked at him, still dazed. Where's my crew?" Kethar's silver eyes dimmed slightly, a gesture that might have meant sadness. No other survivors were found. Lara looked away, staring at the glowing wall. The words sank into her like stones. Captain Miles, Pilot Rhea, her friends, gone. She took a slow breath, forcing the tremor from her hands. "Thank you," she said finally, "for saving me." Kethar tilted his head. "It is what I was made for." He reached for a floating console beside her bed. The air shimmered and a clear image of her body appeared above it, a hologram filled with lines of alien text. Certain parts glowed red. "Your tissues have suffered from radiation exposure," he explained. "The damage is spreading through your cellular structure. I will begin a regenerative treatment." Lara frowned. "Human cells don't always respond well to alien medicine. You might make things worse, I am aware," Kethar said gently. "I have studied human biology for several cycles. Your species adapts quickly. That is your strength." She gave him a tired look. "You've studied us?" "Yes," he said simply. "Humans are new to the stars. So fragile yet so determined. I wish to understand how you survive." Lara tried to smile, but it came out weak. "Most of the time we don't. We just keep trying until something works." The alien made a sound that almost resembled a chuckle, a clear, glassy vibration. A simple but powerful strategy. He adjusted a control and soft warmth spread through Lara's body. The pain faded. The bed seemed to wrap around her, responding to her breathing. "Just lay back and let me take care of it," Kethar said quietly. Lara froze. The words felt strange coming from him. They sounded almost human, almost comforting. Slowly she let herself relax. Minutes passed. The hum of the medbay was the only sound. Her eyelids grew heavy, but she forced herself to stay awake. Her mind wandered to the crash, the alarms, the bright flash before everything went black. Something had struck the ship. Something alive, maybe. "Doctor," she said after a moment, "when you found me, was there anything else out there?" Kethar looked up. "Define anything on another ship. A life form. Energy signatures." He hesitated, his glowing eyes narrowing. "Yes, there were patterns of motion in the upper atmosphere. We detected an unknown biomechanical field. It was feeding on the ship's remains. That is why we brought you here quickly." "Feeding?" Lara repeated. Before he could answer, a sharp vibration shook the room. The lights flickered. A low alarm echoed through the walls. Kethar turned sharply toward a glowing panel. His calm voice hardened. That should not happen. The floor trembled again, stronger this time. The alarm grew louder. A mechanical voice filled the room, speaking in the Virilan tongue, then switching to common. "Warning. External containment breach detected. Perimeter field compromised." Lara's heart started to race. "What's going on?" Kethar didn't look back. His fingers moved quickly across the panel. "The energy parasites. They must have followed the recovery drones here. Parasites, they feed on radiation and power. Once inside, they multiply." Lara tried to stand, but the healing field around her resisted. "You can't fight them alone." "Let me help," Kethar turned. "You are weak. Your body, Still works, she interrupted. I'm a xenobiologist. I studied adaptive organisms on Mars. Maybe I can help you find a pattern to stop them. The alien doctor stared at her for a long moment. Then very slowly he deactivated the restraining field. Very well, he said. But you stay near me at all times. Lara swung her legs over the side of the bed. The floor beneath her feet was cool and smooth, pulsing faintly with light. Cather handed her a small silver disc. Translator and environmental shield, he said. It will protect you from the station's atmosphere. She clipped it to her collar. The air shimmered slightly around her. They stepped out into the corridor. It was long and curved, filled with glowing veins that ran along the walls. The hum of machines echoed all around them, mixed with a faint whispering like wind but sharper. Lara looked through a nearby viewport and froze. Outside, the black sky shimmered with silver dust, thousands of tiny specks moving like a school of fish. They weren't dust. They were alive. Those are the parasites? She whispered. Cather nodded grimly. They were once part of our healing technology. Machines that could repair damaged structures. But they evolved beyond control. Now they devour energy instead of restoring it. She stared at the shifting swarm, horror and fascination mixing inside her. You created them to heal, and now they destroy. Yes, he said quietly. My mistake. The lights flickered again. A distant rumble echoed through the hallway. We must reach the reactor core, Kethar said, already moving. If they consume it, the station will collapse. Lara followed him down the corridor. The air smelled faintly metallic like ozone before a storm. The walls pulsed faster, warning of power loss. They passed empty rooms filled with hovering instruments and glowing data crystals. Everything looked alien, beautiful, and frighteningly alive. At one junction, a small silver shape darted through the air, landing on the wall. Lara saw its surface ripple like liquid metal. Before she could speak, Kethar extended his hand. A wave of blue energy burst from his palm, dissolving the creature instantly. They're learning to enter through air vents, he said. We must hurry. Finally, they reached a large circular door. Kethar pressed his crystalline hand against a scanner, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a massive chamber filled with pulsing light. At its center stood the power core, an orb of shifting color surrounded by spiraling metal. But the swarm was already there. Tiny silver threads crawled across the machinery, glowing brighter as they fed. Lara stepped back instinctively. They're consuming your shield! Yes, Kethar said, voice low. They adapt faster than we can respond. Then we have to outthink them. He glanced at her. How? Humans have irregular neural patterns, she said quickly. Our brain signals are unstable, hard to predict. Maybe if we use that frequency, it could confuse them long enough to reset the shield. Kethar studied her face, his glowing eyes thoughtful. Your unpredictability may indeed be your greatest strength. He moved to the control platform, tapping commands in rapid succession. The room dimmed. Lara connected her small translator to a nearby console, feeding her own neural pattern into the system. The parasites reacted instantly. The swarm hesitated, twisting in confusion. It's working, she said. Keep it steady. Kethar watched the readings. You are interfering with their collective signal. Fascinating. The power stabilizer pulsed brighter. The parasites began to retreat. Then the console sparked violently. Lara jumped back as energy arced across the room. They are resisting, Kethar shouted. Your signal, it is drawing them to you. Before she could move, a silver wave slammed into the containment field, shaking the floor. The lights burst. Kethar reached out, pulling her back from the collapsing console. His crystal skin flared with light as he reinforced the barrier. Stay behind me, he commanded. Lara looked up at him, breathless. What now? He glanced toward the swarm and then back at her. For the first time, she saw something like determination in those silver eyes. Now, he said, we adapt. The room filled with a blinding light as the containment field pulsed again. The swarm screamed, a sound of static and fury, then scattered into the dark. When the light faded, silence returned. Kethar lowered his hand. The glow around him dimmed to normal. Lara stared at the now quiet power core, her heart still pounding. That was... Close, he nodded once. Too close. They will return. We must prepare. She looked at him and managed a weak smile. Then let's figure out how to beat them together." For a moment, the alien doctor said nothing. Then softly he repeated his earlier words, but this time with a hint of warmth. "Just lay back," he said, "and let me take care of it." And though she didn't fully trust him yet, Lara found herself smiling too. Because in that moment she realized that even out here, on a lonely alien station surrounded by danger, human determination still mattered. The fight for. The hum of Epsilon Station echoed through the metal halls like a heartbeat. Hours had passed since the attack, but the memory of the swarm's screeching still lingered in Lara's ears. Every sound made her muscles tense, the hiss of a vent, the flicker of a light, the low growl of power converters struggling to stay alive. Dr. Kethar stood at a control panel, his crystal hands moving with calm precision. Thin lines of light ran across his body, glowing brighter each time he touched the screen. Lara sat on a nearby bench watching him and trying not to think about how close they had come to dying. "Is the shield stable now?" she asked. "For the moment," Kethar replied, "but stability is not victory. The parasites will return." "They always do," Lara frowned. "You've dealt with them before?" Kethar paused, his glowing eyes dimming slightly. "Yes, too many times." He didn't say more, but Lara could tell there was a story behind those words. A painful one. The silence stretched between them until the low chime of the console broke it. Kethar turned toward her. "I must recalibrate the energy core. But first you should rest. Your human body is still weak." "I've rested enough," Lara said. "You need help. And I'm not made of glass." He tilted his head, studying her. "Perhaps not of glass," he said softly, "but of fire." That made her smile a little. "That's humans for you. We don't like sitting still when there's a problem to fix." For the first time since they met, Kethar smiled too. The expression looked strange on his alien face, but warm somehow, like sunlight reflected through water. Together they began to work. Kethar showed her how the station systems connected, how energy flowed through living circuits instead of wires, how each part of the structure reacted like a living organism. Lara was fascinated. The Virellans hadn't built machines, they had grown them. "It's alive," she said, running her fingers across a warm metal surface. "In a way," Kethar replied. "Our technology is part biological. It heals, it learns, but sometimes it evolves beyond control." "Like the parasites?" He didn't answer right away. "Yes, they were our creation, a cure for our dying worlds. But instead of healing, they consumed everything." Lara looked at him carefully. "You said earlier you'd studied humans, did you create those things to fix your own people?" Kethar's hands froze above the controls. The light running through his body dimmed. "Yes," he said finally. "We tried to design nanobots that could rebuild tissue and repair planets damaged by war. But they grew hungry for energy. The more they fed, the more intelligent they became. They learned to survive by consuming anything that produced power. And now they're here," Lara said softly. "Your cure turned into a disease." Kethar nodded slowly. "That is my failure to bear." Lara didn't reply. She knew that guilt too well, the kind that lived under the skin and never left. The console in front of them flickered again. Strange readings scrolled across the screen, full of jagged red symbols. "They're coming back," Kethar said, his tone suddenly sharp. "The outer sensors detect swarm movement. They've learned to resist the previous frequency." Lara's mind raced. "We need a new signal, something unpredictable." "Explain." "Humans adapt fast because we make mistakes," she said. "We think in chaos. If we can build a signal that constantly changes like human thought patterns, maybe it will confuse the swarm's collective link." Kethar's metallic eyes glowed brighter. "A neural pattern generator based on human cognition." He looked almost excited. "Yes, it could work, but it will require access to your brainwaves directly." Lara blinked. "My brain?" "Yes, I will not harm you," he added quickly. "We will use a non-invasive interface. But you must trust me." She hesitated. Trust wasn't easy, not after everything that had happened, but she saw the sincerity in his glowing eyes. "All right," she said. "Let's do it." Kethar gestured for her to follow. They left the control room and entered a smaller chamber. It was circular, lined with crystalline equipment that shimmered like frozen mist. In the center stood a chair surrounded by floating rings of light. "Sit," Kethar instructed gently. Lara sat. The chair adjusted to her body, wrapping her in a soft field of warmth. Kethar placed one of the glowing rings above her head. "This will record your neural resonance." Focus your thoughts on something strong, something purely human. Like what? Anything that defines you, he said. Lara closed her eyes. Images flashed through her mind. Her father's old space uniform, the laughter of her crew. The view of Earth from orbit, blue and fragile. She thought of the determination that had brought humanity to the stars despite every danger. The ring above her head brightened, capturing her thoughts as patterns of golden light. Kethar watched in quiet awe. Your mind is astonishing, he said softly. So much emotion, so much unpredictability. Welcome to humanity, she said, smiling faintly. He transferred the data into the main system. This pattern will serve as the base for our defense pulse. If it works, it will disrupt the swarm's network across the planet. And if it doesn't, then Epsilon Station will fall. Before they could activate it, the lights flickered again. A deep rumble shook the room. They're already inside, Lara shouted. Kethar moved to the controls. We must reach the reactor chamber again.
Quickly!
They ran through the twisting halls. The walls pulsed red as the emergency alarms wailed. Lara's translator buzzed against her neck, warning of radiation. When they reached the reactor room, the sight froze them both. The silver swarm was pouring through cracks in the outer wall, moving like liquid metal snakes. They spread across the machinery, glowing with stolen energy. They've adapted to the containment field, Kethar said grimly. We are too late. No, Lara said firmly. We still have your generator. Let me link it. She rushed to the main console, connecting her neural disk to the control port. The system hummed as her mental pattern synchronized with the power grid. The swarm reacted immediately. Their movement grew erratic, twisting in confusion. Some detached from the walls, falling to the ground like drops of mercury. It's working, she said. They're losing coordination. Kethar focused the pulse. We must increase the output, but slowly. Too much and it will destroy your neural signal. Do it, Lara said through gritted teeth. The light in the room intensified. The swarm screamed again like static mixed with wind. Their silvery forms began to break apart, but then the console overloaded. Sparks exploded across the controls. Lara cried out as pain shot through her head. Kethar grabbed her arm, pulling her away. Enough, your brain cannot sustain this. Lara shook her head. We're close. I can handle it. He looked at her, and for a moment she saw something almost human in his expression, a mix of fear and admiration. You risk everything for others, he said softly. That is what makes your kind extraordinary. He placed his hand over hers, adding his own energy into the field. The swarm began to dissolve faster, burning away in waves of light, but the system began to collapse around them. The station shuddered. Metal screamed. The control core flashed red. Kethar pushed Lara behind him as an explosion ripped through the far wall. Energy smoke filled the room. When the noise faded, half the swarm was gone. The rest retreated into the vents, vanishing into the shadows. Lara coughed, her voice hoarse. We stopped them. Not all, Kethar said, but enough for now. He helped her stand. Her knees shook, but she stayed upright. We need to finish this, she said. If they're still out there, they'll come back stronger. He nodded slowly. They will, but I believe you are the key to ending them. Your neural pattern, your human adaptability, can be used to rewrite their instinct. She frowned. Rewrite it, you mean? Turn them back into healers? Yes, restore what they were meant to be. Lara stared at him. You want to save them? Kethar's voice was calm. I created them. I must try to undo my mistake. And I believe only you can make that possible. For a long moment, Lara said nothing. Then she nodded. All right, Doctor. Let's fix your creation. Kethar's glowing eyes softened. You are unlike any human I have met. And you, Lara said with a faint smile, are unlike any alien I expected. The station's lights flickered again, reminding them both of the danger still outside. Kethar looked toward the main viewport, where the dark sky shimmered with faint traces of the retreating swarm. They will return in greater numbers soon. If we are to stop them, we must combine human instinct and Virellan design. Lara nodded. Then let's get started. He turned to her, voice steady but filled with quiet respect. Lara Quinn, you are now part of my mission. And you, she said, are part of mine. As they walked back toward the lab, the distant hum of the station returned. But this time it didn't sound like fear. It sounded like purpose. Above the planet, the storm of silver dust circled in silence, gathering strength once again. And deep within Epsilon Station, a human and an alien doctor prepared to fight not with weapons, but with knowledge, courage, and trust. The reactor chamber shook under the rhythmic pulse of Epsilon Station. Outside the thick observation windows, the dark sky of Epsilon 9 swirled with silver shapes, the returning swarm. Their movements were faster, smarter, more coordinated than before. Lara Quinn pressed her hands against the console, eyes wide with focus. "We don't have much time," she said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. Cathar nodded, his crystal skin glowing brighter as he adjusted the containment field. "The swarm has adapted. If we don't act now, the station and this planet will be lost." Lara took a deep breath. "Then let's finish this. We've come too far to fail now." They worked together in silence, moving fluidly between the glowing panels. Cathar guided the energy core, shaping its frequency patterns while Lara used her neural interface to inject the unpredictable human pattern. Her thoughts raced, memories of Earth, of her crew, of humanity's history of survival against impossible odds. "Your mind is remarkable," Cathar said quietly, watching the golden patterns flow through the system. "The way humans adapt, it is astonishing," Lara smiled faintly. "That's what humans do. We survive, we learn, and we fight even when the odds are impossible." A tremor ran through the chamber. Sparks erupted from a nearby panel as the swarm struck the station's hull, testing every defense. Silver tendrils reached toward the core, seeking to devour the energy inside. "Focus on your thoughts," Cathar said, his hand resting lightly on hers. "Your mind is the key. If you can control it, we can control them." Lara closed her eyes. She thought of her father on Earth, a teacher who had always told her, "The human mind is stronger than any weapon." She thought of the first step she had taken on Mars, the tiny victories that had kept humanity moving forward, and she thought of her crew, gone but not forgotten. Her heart filled with determination. She poured all of her focus into the interface, allowing her neural pattern to expand, to shift, to move unpredictably. It flowed into the energy core, creating a wave of golden resonance that pulsed through the station. The swarm reacted instantly. The silver threads froze, their movements jerky and disorganized. They shrieked a high-pitched static noise, striking at one another in confusion. "They're destabilized," Lara shouted. "Keep it steady!" Cathar nodded, hands flying across the controls. The containment field pulsed in harmony with Lara's mind, creating a rhythm the parasites could not predict. One by one they broke apart, disintegrating into harmless sparks that floated away and vanished. But the system was straining. The core's energy surged, threatening to overload. Sparks flew and the hum of the station grew louder, almost deafening. "Too much," Cathar warned. "The system cannot handle this intensity for long." Lara opened her eyes. Sweat ran down her forehead. "Then we end it now. I'll give them a final pattern, a signal they cannot resist." "Are you certain?" Cathar asked. His eyes flickered with worry. "I have to be," she said firmly. "Otherwise everyone here will die." He nodded, understanding the human resolve that had carried them this far. "Then do it. I will stabilize the output as best I can." Lara closed her eyes again. She concentrated, visualizing a wave of energy that carried every instinct, every memory, every human trait she could think of. Determination, curiosity, courage, adaptability. She let it flow through her body and into the interface, sending a golden pulse through the reactor core. The swarm screamed as the pulse hit them. Their metallic bodies shattered into fragments of light, spinning through the vacuum outside the station like glittering stars. One by one, they dissolved completely. The dark sky cleared, leaving the violet horizon of Epsilon 9 visible once more. The chamber shook violently, and Lara fell to her knees, exhausted. Her neural interface beeped frantically, warning that her brain was overstressed. "Lara," Cathar called, moving quickly to her side. He placed his hands on her shoulders, transferring a surge of regenerative energy into her body. Warmth spread through her, easing the tension and pain. She blinked up at him, smiling weakly. "We did it." He nodded, his crystal eyes glowing softly. "Yes, you saved this station. You saved this planet." Lara's gaze drifted to the viewport. The silver storm was gone. The parasites, once a threat that could have ended life on Epsilon 9, were neutralized. A quiet stillness hung in the sky. "We stopped them," she whispered, feeling a surge of relief. "We actually stopped them." Cathar's hands hovered over the console, checking the energy readings. The swarm is neutralized, but their remnants still carry adaptive energy. We must monitor them in the coming cycles. They could re-emerge if left unchecked. Lara nodded. Then we'll stay vigilant. But for now, let's breathe. They stood together in silence, watching the planet below. For the first time since the crash, Lara allowed herself to feel hope. You humans are extraordinary, Cathar said quietly, almost to himself. Your adaptability, your courage, it surpasses anything I have seen in countless cycles of life. Lara laughed softly. We just say don't give up, that's all. No, he replied, turning to her fully. It is more than that. You see possibilities where others see failure. You take risks that others avoid. You sacrifice, yet remain hopeful. That is why you survived. That is why you succeed. She shook her head, humbled. I didn't do this alone. You helped, too. You guided the energy. You stabilized the system. He studied her, and for a moment, the alien and human looked at each other as equals, partners in a challenge that tested mind, courage, and spirit. Perhaps, he said slowly, the combination of our species is the key. Humans and Virellans working together, our minds and your unpredictability, might achieve what neither could alone. Lara smiled. Then maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe we can fix other things too, make the galaxy a little safer. The station creaked and groaned as systems came back online. Lights pulsed softly, machinery hummed steadily, and the soft living walls seemed to breathe again. Life returned to the station. Cathar gestured toward a small observation deck. The human rescue fleet will arrive soon. But you, Lara Quinn, you have done something far greater than mere survival. You have shown that humanity is more than a species of fragile beings. You are a force that can shape worlds. Lara looked out at the stars. She thought of Earth, of her family, of everything she had lost and gained on this journey. We survive, she whispered. We adapt, we grow, that's who we are. Cathar's hands rested lightly on the console, his glow dimming to a soft shine. Yes, and now the universe will take note. Your actions here, humanity will inspire others. Perhaps it will change the course of life itself. The distant hum of the station felt calm now, no longer tense. Outside, the violet sky of Epsilon 9 stretched endlessly, peaceful and silent. For a moment it seemed that nothing could harm it again. Lara sank into a chair near the viewport, exhausted but unafraid. Cathar stood nearby, keeping watch, his gaze shifting between her and the stars. You know, she said softly, I never thought I'd meet an alien doctor who actually cares about humans. Most just see us as fragile, primitive, and interesting for study. He inclined his head. And yet you survived. You adapted. You endured. You inspired. That is more than science, it is proof of the human spirit. For the first time, Lara felt truly proud. Not just for surviving, not just for defeating the swarm, but for showing what humans could do when they refused to give up. The humans, she said quietly, more to herself than to Cathar, aren't just survivors. We're problem solvers, explorers, fighters, dreamers. We don't just live, we make life better wherever we go. Cathar's eyes glimmered softly. Indeed, and now your species has taught me a lesson as well. Perhaps all life can learn from you, she laughed lightly. I hope the galaxy is ready for that lesson. The first human rescue shuttles appeared on the station's sensors, tiny specks against the purple sky. Lara watched them approach, knowing that help had finally arrived. But she also knew that this was more than a rescue. This was a new beginning, a human-alien partnership that could change worlds. As the shuttles docked and her future crew stepped aboard, Cathar placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Lara Quinn, he said, voice steady, you are unlike any human I have ever known, and that is why you will always succeed. She smiled, feeling the truth in his words. And you, she said softly, are unlike any alien I expected. Thank you for trusting me and for letting me help. Outside the viewport, the stars gleamed bright and infinite. The swarm was gone. Epsilon Station was safe. Humanity had survived once more, and this time it had taught an alien doctor a lesson he would never forget. Lara leaned back in her chair, finally allowing herself to breathe. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, but she no longer feared them. Humans adapted, humans endured, and together with friends, alien or human, there was no challenge too great. For the first time since the crash, she allowed herself a moment of peace, and somewhere deep in the glow of Cathar's crystalline form, She sensed that the future of humanity, and the stars themselves, had just become a little brighter.